Hindi cinema isn't just a reflection of life. For many, it is life itself. The stories, the anchors, the dances, the songs. Oh, the songs. Film songs are not just songs, they are the philosophies of life. In celebration of this incredible institution, Google Arts and Culture presents a nostalgic trip back in time to revisit our favorite moments in Hindi cinema.
And academic to how India reflects very strongly in the cinema story.
Explore a unique retrospective of expertly curated content, their images in high resolution, interviews with industry legends, virtual tours of iconic spaces, and behind the scenes chronicles. An experience that's immersive, inspiring, and occasionally melodramatic.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Google Masterclass, an in-conversation session presented by the International Film Festival of India and Satyajit Ray Film and Television Institute. We thank Google for sponsoring the session. We have more than 20 sessions for you on various topics of filmmaking, storytelling, and creativity. Today, we have a very special panel with us. They are the masters and artists of makeup, costume, and production design in the Indian film industry. They have created unforgettable characters with trend-setting costumes, unique makeup, and they have enhanced the look and feel of the films with their production designs. So please welcome with a round of applause Miss Dolly Ahluwalla, Miss Vaishnavi Reddy, and Miss Preetisheel Singh D. We are honored and delighted to have them with us today. We also have a distinguished moderator with us. He is executive editor for entertainment of the New Indian Express and is known for his deep conversation with filmmakers. He is none other than Mr. Sudhir Srinivasan. Please welcome Mr. Sudhir Srinivasan on stage with a round of applause. I would like to request Mr. Ajay Goke, IRS, General Manager NFDC, Executive Officer of EP and Film Bazaar, to please be on the stage and felicitate the dignitaries. Thank you, sir. We will take questions from the audience at the end, so please keep them ready and raise your hands when asked. We now request Mr. Srinivasan to start the session. Thank you.
Dolly, Vaishnavi, Preeti, it's an absolute pleasure to have the three of you here. And I look around here and I think all the people who come to this session, I have no doubt they all love cinema. Because it's only after you start getting into this journey of cinema that you start to appreciate the finer aspects of it. The people who work behind the scenes that you may not know so much about necessarily. So I want to start off by giving a round of applause to everybody who's part of this session. Because once you stop giving credit to only those you see in cinema, I feel like the appreciation of the medium and the medium itself gets better. So that's what we hope to do today with the three of you here. Um, just to give a quick introduction, we've got costume designer Dolly here. She's also an actor, a character designer, Preetisheel Singh, and we've got production designer Vaishnavi. Between them, they have a lot of films that we've watched over the years and enjoyed. Kamine, Rockstar, Padmavat, Bajirao Mastani, Special Chappies, Gajini, Tupaki, Sita Ramam, Gangubai, of course, that we won a national award for. Oh my God, to Haider, Pushpa, Jawan, I think I could go off for the next 1 hour speaking about these films, mentioning these films. So let me just state that given the differences in your job and the nuances of your respective occupations, I would have preferred to have a special hour dedicated to each of you and to understand the nuances of what you do. But here we are. So, feel free to pitch in wherever you can. Let's make this conversation as organic as possible. You know, let's. I think a good place to begin would probably be to ask each of you where you decided to do this for a living. What made you do this particular job for a living? Because there's a lot of it's fairly murky. A lot of people see you guys doing it, but they're not really sure what got you on this journey. Because I think that might help those listening to understand whether they have a similar spark in them, something that pushes them towards.
For me, cinema has been my heart and soul from the time I think when I started watching television with my dad. My dad is a huge action movie fan, and my mom used to love watching Rishikesh Mukherjee films, Nasiruddin Shah's films. So I've seen all kind of range while growing up. So I just feel it's in my blood. So I was honestly before this I've done BTech and I was a software engineer and I quit my job and because I just could not pursue with that and that's how I ended up quitting around about when I was 30 and I started this career like right from ground zero and I feel if you are dedicated and you have the hard work and the determination to pursue something I feel you would always achieve it no matter what.
Do you remember that particular moment when you decided to, take the plunge, to let go of whatever job you were doing, whatever you were trained to do until then?
Yes, I remember I called my mom and I said, I can't do it anymore. I can't pursue with this job. And my dad was like, what, are you crazy? You are like posted in States and you're earning good and what's there to leave? And I just said, I feel I'm just going, it was just I was just deteriorating within myself. And I said, no way. And my parents are very supportive. And they said, if you want to do it, go ahead. And that's how I started off.
I think that's quite relatable for a lot of people who are suffering doing certain things and they wish they could get out of it.
Mindset is a little bit dark that way. So I used to watch detective series when I was in college. So I could guess the scenario by the evidence that they would show on the film. So I realized that I'm very good at reconstructing things based on the evidence. So this led me to start storytelling I would watch the whole thing, I'd see the crime scene and I'd guess who had done it. So from there I started with this, okay, these are props, this is how the scenario is, this is how it happens, and then there's storytelling. So it was really dark. I think I wanted to be a detective, but then somehow I became an art director. So then I think it's similar, you know, you think like what the scenario is and how you place it and you place it together and present the world. And then you can play around with it and then the whole story is told in that. So I think that's where I didn't have a definitive moment where I felt like, okay, this is what I wanted to do. It's all about the evidence and creating that
I think it would be great to
illusion.
take you to a mystery room or something.
Yes. So it was about the illusion always. And then it's so real, you define the illusion, right? So that's really fantastic for me now. Good evening, everybody. As regards my journey, I think when I was in my mom's stomach, that time only I decided I'm going to become a designer as an actor. But yes, as one of my friends also shared, it has been a great encouragement from the family. And I've been always pushed, you know. मैं जब भी कहीं जाती थी, I used to be copying people, you know. So even like a child, I used to do it and all. And बिना सुर के गाना गाना and also my parents, you know, they always said to me there's something very, very special about that. So I would honestly feel that I ate, drank, I was breathing theater. Initially, I tell you, my life started from theater, and right from school till the college, I've been getting awards and all. I was given three choices. Let me share with my lovely people around. I spoke through hotel management, I spoke through Air India air hostess, and I spoke through National School of Dance. There was a conflict in my class because all these things were very attractive, you know, like there, air hostess, my sister was there, and I said, wow, that's my life. So what my father, I was totally confused. So what my father said, he said, तीन पर्चियां भगवान के आगे डाल दो. So whatever you pick up, you decide. And believe you me, मैंने चार पर्ची डाली थी. One was empty कि कुछ नहीं तीनों में से और मतलब कुछ नहीं करना. Acting के. So that's how I am here today.
That's one way to figure out what you want to do with life.
When in doubt, process. Yeah, exactly.
You know, a lot of people who get into cinema uh, do it partly also for the allure of getting fame, being recognized by a lot of people. But set design, makeup, costumes, these are fairly unselfish areas of work. And the specific credit for it may not necessarily always be for once in a while, of course, you get a national award. And a few of you already have a couple of them at least. Uh, how do you make peace with being in a medium as widely popular as cinema, but that not necessarily translating to widespread recognition of yourself or the how of your work? Does it irk you, or did you always make peace with the fact that this is what's going to happen? Any of you?
I don't think there's any I per se in anything. It's like when you sign up for anything, it's such a collaborative effort across all departments that there's no question of I or individual. It's completely teamwork, whether it's interdepartmental or within your own department. And I think it's just the driving force is passion. So, you know, that's really what binds everyone together. I think every heart that beats on the set is very passionate about what they're doing. So we tend to forget that I when we're on set and when we're filming. And later you remember it, probably I did this or this happened. But there's just a flow which happens when you sign a flow, which is beautiful. Everyone just comes together. I agree with you, of course, but what usually happens is like when a certain department is not given the recognition that it deserves, or it's not even into consideration, then those people have to fight a little more harder, I feel. When I started my work, it was a time when I used to go around and people used to come and tell me girls are not even allowed to do makeup. And that was a very weird thing when we're living in a secular and democratic country like India. And then that's how the journey started. And slowly, it came to know that there is not even a category for makeup awards in filmfare or any of most of the popular award functions, except for of course national awards. And this, of course, as human beings, I feel at some point or some level, acknowledgement of your work is very, very important. You put your heart and soul, as you said, into it, and when you are not given that acknowledgement, or you're not giving that a platform to represent your work, and you just get like what do you say, evaporated in the background. So that definitely irks. And I have been trying, I've been talking about this for quite some time, and I'm trying to make a mark, I'm trying to change the attitude. And of course, that is where it is just not makeup, it is like a full character design, which is a combination of makeup, hair, prosthetics. A character can be anything of all these permutation combinations that we have. So it has been a difficult road for us, and we've been trying to work.
So can I ask you this then? Because you mentioned that it was you were not allowed to do something that you
Yes,
wanted. How did you break in
I
then?
still did it. I didn't care. I didn't care. I said no one can tell me what to do, what not to do. And if and this is something I've been wanting to do, and for a very long time, creating looks. I used to do that with my family members, turn them into different characters. But it never stopped me.
That reminds me of the scene at the end of Yuva, I think, where he just pushes somebody and walks into the park.
Absolutely.
For that reason, Dolly, maybe I can ask you a different variation of what we're talking about. For that reason, is an award for costume design, does it feel a bit more special than an award for a performance because you've done both and you won both?
If you ask me honestly, I think I'm in love with costume design. That's my first baby. Uh, Being a gold medalist from National School of Drama and Acting, हमारे ज़माने में that time the acting, you couldn't be a freelancer because there was no money in theatre. So it was my guru, Mr. Ibrahim Al who told me, called me, and he says, Lavo, I can see that you have an eye for costumes. So why don't you start? And I think costume in me came from the family, from one of my aunts. She would have been Miss India or Miss Universe. And it's her dressing sense which used to catch my eye. Oh, the yellow and the purple, those kind of combinations. When I open myself, I think the best thing that I've learned is through observation of nature, which has taught me what it is, apart from how you transform or how you get pregnant with a character or a film, and add a meaning and a layer to that character, what is needed, vis-a-vis Dolly Mishra or Langda Tyagi जो हमने किया है, or Bandit Queens में. Uh, my producer Bobby Bailey shared with me yesterday. He says, "Here is my designer who, from a khaki uniform bandit queen, has taken a national award." But I know that that khaki uniform meant so much for me. Every person is wearing a khaki uniform, but to add characters, Preeti also said you have to conceive, you have to be honest to your visualization so that you are able to transfer. So that's what my journey has been. Basically, being honest, observation, and creativity all around. Let me tell you what Preeti said, costume designing award. When it came for a bandit queen, I jumped up from it. I received a call at 12:30 at night. और जब मुझे खबर मिली मैं अपने बिस्तर से मैंने छलांगे मारी, and I was laughing and I was crying क्योंकि never ever heard कि costume designer has got an award. And today, with the presence here of the counted people over here, you can say that still this I will 100% agree with you, that still people are not yet able to associate makeup designing, production designing, costume designing to that level, being a star. Yes, as you said, as an actor, जो विकी डोनर और उस फिल्म्स में जो मुझे मिलता है मजा जो मिला है वो तो मैं act कर रही थी, and I said, yeah, Dolly, you have landed. That's honest. But yes, till date, costume designing is my first baby.
From what some of you say, it seems to begin at an individual level. Some individual inspires you, you see the spark, somebody else nurtures it. Where does it turn from my work is on an individual to my work should aid a story? Because almost all the work that we do is not just, you may be working on an individual, But it's a lot about understanding the bigger vision of what the story is trying to communicate, what the director's vision is for this film. When did that transition happen for some of you? As opposed to, okay, this is about making this person look good or this person look evil or whatever.
As ma'am said, like ma'am, same like yours, like my so much inspiration is from the people around me. You know, randomly, like to strangers, I'll go and kind of click a picture of your hair. Like, your mustache is very interesting. Your moles are very cool. Can I do that? So I do that all that kind of stuff. But for me, it is not just not doing makeup. We are absorbing the story when we read the script. We are understanding the levels of intricacy in that. We are understanding, okay, fine, this character has a draft from the time it's born to the time it's reached a certain stage, or it's from evil, it's transformed to good. So we keep all those factors in mind while designing a character. So it is just not at a very simple level, okay, fine, we've just done hair, makeup, and that's about it, or we just put on costume and we've done the production and good to go. Every scene, every setup has a story behind it, and we absorb that story and then we push it forward via our work so that it kind of merges with the whole thing. I think in terms of set design and production design, it's you stay with the mood and what kind of genre the film fits into. And then my director's vision is the most important driving factor for me. Because I will try to bring my own idea into it. And then I'll dilute it. And it's a middle path between his vision and mine, and we have to meet somewhere there. So the honesty comes there where I'm willing to let go, he's willing to let go, and we meet somewhere. And I interact a lot with cinematographers. So they are giving the visual aesthetic, I'm giving the physical setting for that. So it's like it's a different kind of a marriage. I feel like with the cinematography, I have to understand the lensing, the move, the technique. It's not just set design; it's reality that you're trying to recreate. So we have to define what reality we are coming up with way before we start the film.
You and I were having a brief conversation behind the stage, and one of the words you mentioned was the importance of psychology
Yeah.
in being able to do this work. In being what we essentially are talking about here is to understand character motivations, to understand the psyches of people who populate the film, and clearly not all the institutes that train you to do specific tasks train you to understand those things as well.
Psychology is very important over the period of time. I have to share where I learned colors, how they are supposed to be transferred to the cinema. Theatre में बहुत I've done so much of theatre, all kinds of plays, Shakespearean, Victorian, mythology, everything. Here, when I was doing Bandit Queen, Ashok Mehta ji, he's one of the most legends that was with us. I was there. If you people have seen Bandit Queen, एक scene है जहाँ पे Gujjar is trying to rape the bandit, the queen. So I am there, and Shekharji told me that Dolly, you be behind the bush because we were in the divines, so that when she needs it, she's half naked, kind of a thing. So you are there to cover her up. I was there, and suddenly I get a voice, Dolly, and I got literally. And then Ashokji's main man, writing man, he comes running, and Bakhia, I still remember his name. He comes running to Sir bula rahe hain. And I am down there at the divine, and Ashokji is up there. I had to run over there, and I was having heart attack. He puts to gadbad ho gaya, kind. I reach there. He's on the crane shot. He brings the crane down, and there's a seat, for the focus puller in over there. He tells to that person to get up, and he makes me sit over there. I swear I was sweating to there. What is that? Bandit Queen, initially my first Bollywood film. And he takes me up. And in Punjabi, I wonder people understand. He said, "Death ki kitabu." So I got मैंने बोला क्या God मैंने बोला वाहिगुरु I started doing that. He told me I had placed a red color gamcha next to where the bandit and she is Seema is being raped. So I placed it in such a way that I didn't know that I'm giving this meaning to it. But through the camera, he told me, "तूने देख क्या किया है? It is like a virgin being raped. That's the meaning you have created with all that reminds you of dust and his khaki uniform and all." It was a goal for me. I said, "What is this? मैंने तो ऐसे किया है दिन." So that is where he gave me the meaning, how to understand colors and what it means. What I am today, with all those experiences of different films, as Preeti was telling, there has been a very good understanding between my directors, it's Vishal ji, Imtiaz Ali, Deepa Mehta, everybody. They had always given me a freedom. Visualization, and she says, yes, director. He is the puller of the entire thing. But the best thing is if you go prepared and you share that this is your vision, this is there's always a very creative talk that happens, which is very unusual. Another incident, so I'm sorry taking more time, was when Saif was cast for Omkara, Langla Tyagi. Vishalji, myself, we went to his house and all, and he was all ready with, because it's a Shakespearean play, he was all ready with big boots with those balloon sleeve, shirts and all that kind of a thing. So we were in for a shock ki kya Omkara ka kya, what is the visual like. And Vishalji only said ki isko ko work. No, 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 Seth, it's nothing of that kind, something very different. Why it has to be like that? It is Shakespeare's. So we said, so Vishalji, then we came back. I said, you give me 2 more days. I took his measurements from his assistant. I got the replica, what I was thinking about, those bundis and everything, and the tehmats and all. I got it made and I went to his house and we tried it now. That's the first day, a star like Seth surrendered. He says, oh, is this I'm going to wear for this? And that day, no looking back, it was like he was totally in it, and we see what Langra Tyagi, nobody else could be better than Seth, what he said. So it's basically one of my favorite things. Yeah.
And please do not worry about sharing these anecdotes because they make the whole conversation so much better.
Thank you so much. So in my case, I have too many which are very funny and dark stories. So I'll save it for you.
Yeah, by all means, we want to know more about your detective work.
So yeah, Gajini was one of those. When we had to recreate his entire thought process with having nothing except a character study and understanding what, like, I would call it convenient dementia sometimes. Just to be funny, he remembers certain things for 10 seconds. How do you recreate something like that? We had to spill it over onto the set. We decided to go the green tone for the film. So the DOP and myself, we worked on a color palette, which is very psychological and very like green and little, what do you call it, cringe. Yeah. And then you work on the mood of the character, the props, everything is designed keeping this in mind. So I think all of us at one point had that camera and we were taking pictures all over Bombay. And we were done strange. The whole of the art department was just taking pictures, Polaroids, and recreating crime scenes, and then staging it, and then putting it up on the map, and then destroying it. So the technical aspect, but the only thing like I'd like to mention is whatever we do it for camera. We don't do it other ways. So we have to always have that in mind. It's the reality for the camera that's important. What looks good as well as what's real.
Maybe we can here touch upon a different sort of topic from here. There's a school of thought that says whatever belongs, whatever is necessary to push the vision of the film forward, that is all that needs to be done. That means that your work is good. But then, as individuals, you do realize that if you have to grow in the industry, your work needs to be striking in a sense that makes people wonder who did this. At least in the beginning, formative stages of your career, you do want to have people notice that.
It's with every film, you got, for me, it's like with every film, that striking result has to be there. Otherwise, yeah. For me, it's like I get pregnant with every film I do because every child is a different child. So the nourishment, इसको ज़्यादा coconut पानी देना है, इसको ज़्यादा ये करना है. So that it's within you. It tells you. And when you have your DOPs and all, like even I share my color schemes a lot with the DOPs, and because that's where your thinking, your process is pushed, it's held. There's a back person, giving a kind of a thing, yeah, go ahead with it. And I don't show anything in bits because that creates a different picture. You show it as a complete form so that even the actors and the directors know what it is. Like it's a complete baby. Every mother wants my baby, every baby to be most beautiful. So that's what I look forward to. That's what my baby is.
So let me be very specific in that case. Maybe that makes things easier. If you got a pretty average script that allows you to explore your field and really register a mark with the sort of work you do in that, as opposed to you get a wonderful script, but you realize that your scope for work is pretty limited there, and it's going to be pretty generic, so to speak. What do you think?
Wonderful script. Yeah, exactly. The script you want, whatever form it is, if any script that comes, you get a space to work on. You make a space. Yeah. Exactly. You make a space. It's not that it's bad, nothing of that kind.
There are some pretty average scripts out there.
I've been lucky I've not come across that. We avoid doing that.
Sometimes in terms of work you do pick up scripts and you just when you first you're starting off and you want to build a career you do pick up scripts and you work but at the end of the day you want to put your best foot across and at the end of the day it's a director's call to agree okay fine I want this or I don't want this no matter how many big or uh, over the top ideas that you're giving but at the same time sometimes if you lose a good script you always have that "अरे, wish काश मैंने ये किया होता या काश वो होता."
अभी भी जो भी मैं फिल्म
मैं
करती हूँ
अभी
उसके बाद देखने के बाद तब भी ऐसा oh no यार I
Yeah.
should have done this
Yeah.
it's all with the hunger
It's a self-criticizing process never stops.
Yeah.
Like at least like oh I wish I would have done this better. I wish
I have to get on
this point is the self-criticism that starts when
it's
you
most important
but I feel
it's
as
important
artists, for us to grow, if you, if we feel we are satisfied in life or we've achieved everything, there's no more learning, then as human beings, there's no more growth left.
And that's one of the things that really came about from her anecdote as well. When a
Yes.
director noticed something and he said, "Hey, this color means this,"
Yeah.
and you're not supposed to do this. If she had not shown the inclination to learn from there, then growth might not have happened.
Absolutely, absolutely.
But there are certain scripts which take it beyond. It takes you to another world. Like, let me not shy away from saying Heather. The kind of
Beautiful
script
film.
and the kind of,
We work
the
together.
set that was created by it gives you,
The
it
chills,
gives you
yeah.
itches exactly. Ye bika. That's what the hunger should be there.
For me, like I've been working with Mr. Bansali for the longest time. My first project was with him was Badi Ramastani. Every time I read his script, for us, we never have that initial discussion. We always से पढ़ ली है तो कुछ जाके कर ले जो तेरे दिमाग में. And I still remember the first time Khilji was created, and I was sitting with Ranveer and Sir, and I said, Khilji should be this character who should enter the room that people should feel like they should feel scared at the same time. You feel awe, and he should be like this giant with unshaved arms. He eats like a animal, and this and the scar that the build. And I also wanted to give him a gap tooth, which kind of didn't happen eventually in the film. But characterization, building on it, making every other character, the next character better than what you've done before. It is what strives us to do better work each time.
Because you're talking about Kelsey here, I can probably ask you something. It's one thing to write that the character is an alpha man. He's very aggressive in nature. He likes to control the spaces that he inhabits. It's one thing to write that. But quite another to bring those mental characteristics through the way he looks and the appearance and what he wears and the spaces he inhabits and all of that. How do you interpret these difficult, complex mental qualities in the physical form? Do you have like a rule book for this? Do you say, yeah, okay, so if he suffered from some sort of parental abuse, then he's supposed to look like this. If he suffers from inferiority complex, then he looks like this. How do you do
A lot of it depends on the casting. So it really depends on that. And I do a lot of face studying. Okay. And sometimes even just like looking at your face, I feel there's a very calm and a composed personality about it. also. So I do a lot of that, and of course, reading the script when Khilji was created, I had created this persona in my head that he's going to be like this. There wasn't like a detailed description at the time, and my favorite was the two scars across the cheeks, which kind of brought the evilness across, and the kind of hair that I wanted to give him, it was like having a lion's mane and ferocious and aggressive, and then obviously when the costume also comes into play, they layer it up with fur and the jewelry and the hat and everything. So
And I think the minute you get characters like this that are so well designed,
yeah,
you're set in a space that defines the space a lot. So it's like you can't define how closely the departments are. It's like inspiration all the time. Like if we could see a character like that, immediately the set would come to your mind. And also, I feel it's a great challenge for these kind of characters because you're literally at a razor's edge. If you go little, you've had गए बिल्कुल आपके हाथ से चीज गई, but you have to be stable for that. That's very important.
it is like I recently did a look test for a film, and it's still in pre-production stage. But I got a call from the DOP and the production designer, and they said that they loved the looks so much in the film that they said you inspired us to do better work for.
How
So
wonderful.
that was like such a huge compliment, and it's like I mean, it was a huge moment for. It was a huge moment for me. To
Mind
get a
telling us
call
what
from
this film is?
Oh, not I can't name it right now. But it was a big deal to get that compliment and having to play down that space where I can encourage people of that stature to like we want to make a production design which is compatible with what the looks that you've created. So it was a pretty big deal for me. Yeah.
I think we do suffer a lot when we don't have character design and like when we don't see the costumes. Like we're just randomly visualizing spaces. And whenever it comes together, it's just like, two hands clapping, everything just comes together. It's beautiful. So this is a very important part, which I feel like she rightly put in the first question that you asked. It's something that we don't give much value to in the industry as a technical aspect. All of these are very technical jobs, but we just think it just happens. But it doesn't really happen that way. Very technical. And let me share with my friends over here in the evening and these three departments which are sitting in front of you are the most hard working in a filmmaking. Honestly, I'm telling you, जो आप पर्दे में देखते हैं, वो कैमरा हम लोगों का ट्रांसलेटेड वर्जन होता है दिखाने के लिए. I honestly feel there. So, thank you. I also say thank you to myself. Let's be greedy.
That was the first film together, me and
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And I don't think too many people will be forgetting that bird-like mask that he wears at one point in the film, and it sort of reminds you that it's not just about designing something for a person alone. Right? It's also about this distinction of necessarily thinking out of the box in a sense, right? Because it's not a usual idea that anyone thinks of. You want to communicate madness, you try to do it in all the acceptable ways. So how do you constantly ensure that you don't stick to this pattern of okay, so I have a rule book that I subscribe to. Like for example, we've got used to saying red signify danger. Or, these are basic ideas that people recognize. How do you still ensure that you try to break away from these established rules of how things are supposed to be done? Because only that results in unforgettable imagery.
For that, I can give you an example. Like I say, my all work is dependent on nature around me. So we have different types of characters. So if it's a negative character in a film, you need it and all. You start studying those different forms and shapes and colors, and you try translating into that. You can't specifically nahi jo hai. Like I always say, red is a very positive color, is a very negative color because there's blood and everything happening, and there's passion and love in there. So you have to understand कि उस moment में उस scene में set ने क्या दिया हुआ है, makeup क्या देने वाला है, what are the curtains going to be look like, so that your person adds to it. That is how it is. But there's so many different yellow flowers. You have to see what film में क्या character है, what it needs. So it's your choice, observation.
So clearly, it seems like you have these deep, intense conversations with the people who are trying to make these films to understand where they're coming from.
Actors also. These days actors are really, let me tell you, they come up with brilliant ideas, and so
And they are changing to the new format. They don't want to look the same in every film. They want to look as per the character. So that's a big relief as we get like a good canvas, like without inhibitions to work on.
You spoke about wanting to do a specific thing with Ranveer's teeth, if I'm not wrong, right?
Yes, yes, yeah,
In the
yeah,
film, and you couldn't do.
yeah,
And that got me thinking.
yeah.
What do you do when actors flat out refuse certain ideas that you suggest because they probably worry about looking very unattractive? There is a director's vision to stick to, and you're trying to be very honest to that vision. But then there is the challenge of trying to make an actor so comfortable that they are also looking beyond themselves. And that's, I'm assuming, a hard thing to make them do.
Yes, I feel if they've signed up for the film, they need to sign up for this as well. But at the end of the day, of course, it's the director's call, and sometimes you do get actors who don't want to get this done or that done. At some level, you adjust, but if it is just changing the character altogether, then at that point you got to put your foot down. You got to talk. You got to have the meeting together and bring in the director that this is not happening. So how to go about that? Because if you lose the full essence of what you're trying to create and that's not happening, then there's no point. Either we talk to the actor and get his mindset changed. Or,
I understand. I mean, the reason I ask you this is with most actors, I assume it's probably possible.
yeah.
But with someone at the top of his game, for example, or her game, then these insecurities, I'm assuming, start coming up on some
I will
level.
tell you
Right?
something. I just finished working with Mr. SRK, Mr. Bachchan. I worked, and these people are at the level that they are so committed to the job that this I you can't even sense any kind of insecurity that I'm not going very patiently. I still remember when the first time SRK sir sat in the chair and I was like, sir, and I was just like, are you okay with this? Are you okay with that? The person says to me, मैं तेरे को तेरा काम नहीं सिखाऊंगा तो मेरे को मेरा काम मत सिखाना. So let's be respectful of that. So that was pretty cool and so respect. You are giving the technician that space, that respect to let that person do the job. So that was very important, and I don't feel people are there.
And maybe Dolly should step in about this conversation because she is an actor as well.
Yeah, Bandit Queen, all those characters which were there, I used to try those costumes on me most. That was the actor to I can't be a bandit queen. So it's kind of that helps you a lot because I understand for like even Preeti will agree and all. For us, the casting is very important, and that's how you start conceiving that character in so and so person. Again, I say it's a trust. I've never, all these projects so I've done is a never for an award. It's never there. It's just for my passion and my love for it. Uh, like there is a risk, what Preeti was also just shared and all. See, there are certain people who come with it, but it depends on you how you convince them to what is important. So if you are true to yourself, if you are true to your director, it's very easy to even the so-called stars we talk about to transfer that or translate that into their minds. And as I shared, these days the actors come fully prepared. It's nothing. They come and they learn the art to surrender if it's helping their character, it's helping the film, which is a great awareness. No more hero कि मुझे ये लगना है, मुझे ये लगना है. At least I haven't faced it for all the films that I've done. So,
Right, and I think we are all very happy for it as well.
yeah.
You spoke, you guys. I mean, you often talk about the importance of casting, in the importance of a certain appearance and what you can do with it. With filmmakers, often, in terms of casting, they talk about, okay, this person's face is meant to be the bad guy, and this person's face is meant to be the good guy. And you have all these stereotypes in terms of how they ascribe certain characteristics to personas. But you work with prosthetics, for example, um, which is
That's the power of makeup.
which is pretty much transforming everybody to look as everybody else. Uh, do you think you can make anyone look any way, or do you still look for a certain basic structure there that you can adjust?
It really depends on what I'm trying to make. If I have to make a creature, I can transform you into any creature I want. But
Thank you.
but if I want a certain person to look like a certain person, then I need a little anatomy matching at some level, because otherwise 100% matching is never possible. If I have to make, like, I have to create two Sudhirs, then that'll be, I'll need a person who matches your kind of anatomy, and then we sculpt on the face to match your face structure. That's how this is. But yes, the power of makeup is there. If they casted a thin actor and they want that, and he's supposed for a negative role, but they want him to look fat or chubby.
Feel free to suggest examples as you're talking about these ideas, so we can also make these associations.
Um, on the spot now, I can't think, but the whole idea is that we can transform the actor into a fat face if we want, or we can add scars, or we can add different kind of like I just finished the Village just got released, and that a lot of mutants mixed of half human and half mutants had to be the chromosome had to be made. So it really depends on what we want to do. The amount of research that goes into it is crazy. Yeah. I'm half doctor now. Yeah, I can imagine. My laptop is full of all injuries and wounds and different shapes and whatnot. You can't even believe.
It's about being also open to learning about so much more than what you just sign up to do.
Instead of opening, I would use the word layering and unlayering. That's most important. Whatever, even if you don't have to unlayer the image of whatever, say for SRK or Mr. Bachchan and all, so that you add the layer, the character's layer. For me, it's a magic of layering and unlayering.
You mentioned, I'll give you an example in Jawan. So the difference had to be created between the son and the father. But at the same time, we didn't want to show like a very frail or a very weak father. He's an army man, he is fit and he's good to go. So when I started working on the design, I started studying SRK's anatomy. So instead of creating wrinkles and lines on his face, I created the muscle shift. So we added silicone pieces on his cheeks and on his forehead, where the anatomy is kind of changed. At the same time, you see SRK, but a little older version of him, and at the same time, it's fitting the character description.
Vaishnavi, you've been quiet for a while. I'm not going to allow that to happen.
No, 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 no.
There's a scene in Inception
I
where
don't deal so much with actors, so I'm pretty.
I know. In Inception, there's a scene where he's looking around to hire people to do his job, and he goes to this architect. And this person says, I love this because it allows me to do everything that I can within the scope of the dream that I can't do in reality. Um, Films are a sort of dream in a sense, right? You're sort of trying to do a make believe world there. Do you feel that sense of magic while you're creating things, putting things up, and does it feel like a
Yeah, the kind of creative ability that you have and the space that's given to you is wonderful. You can create whatever, but you have to live with it for the rest of your life. But because once it gets on screen, so it's going down sort of like in history. So you want to get it right. And we were talking about comfort zones, right? Like, I think it's always about pushing ourselves out of the comfort zone. So all of us are always trying to do that, more than the actors or anyone else. The technicians are trying to do it. And in that, you have to make sure you don't go over the top. You don't push it too much. You go psychedelic to the set, or you just make it totally unbelievable. So you're keeping it together. That's how we. I don't know how we do it, but there is a rule book, invisible rule book defined between all departments, I feel, and it just comes together. There's some films where you don't have a sync with the other departments, and it's quite a nightmare to get through those films. It just happens like magic, or it's not there. Come on, no.
100% agree. Yeah. And I think I left my answer incomplete when you asked that I, as an actor and a designer, when we're talking about it. I think when I am into another space as an actor, the thing I've learned is to surrender. And that I've learned is through the actors that I work with, they have done with me. So it's easy for the other person to work on it, instead of I coming and throwing my ideas, I just keep quiet. Let the person's energy come out of me. That's what.
Yeah, we spoke about how all three of you do these departments. There's a lot of hard work that goes into what's done, and typically when you want to do a lot of hard work, you need a bit of time to do this hard working. I keep hearing horrible stories about people in your respective professions being given horrible deadlines with which to create incredible stuff. Do you get a lot of that, the three of you?
We forgot the budgets. Yeah, right. Absolutely. सबसे कम बजट में आप सब साथ में तो शेयर करने रहते हैं कॉस्ट्यूम डिपार्टमेंट एंड मेकअप सेट डज गेट्स प्रोडक्शन डिजाइनर गेट्स
मीटिंग ऐसे ही शुरू होती है वी काइंड ऑफ लाइक फॉलो हाफ द बजट मीटिंग ऐसे ही शुरू होती है बजट बहुत कम है
हाँ वो बुलाते हैं कि मैम ये दिस इज अ फिल्म कॉस्ट्यूम करनी है एंड द बजट इज वेरी लिमिटेड सो दैट्स
So yeah, I guess but deadlines are a problem because sometimes actors dates keep changing and suddenly you need to pull in a set or push back a set. But you can't say no. You never say no. You just do it. Once you're in sync with your director. I feel filmmaking is like this chaos that we enjoy. It's always chaotic, no matter the
challenging,
situation. Yeah,
very
very
challenging.
challenging, very chaotic. As ma'am said, we are the first ones to be on the set, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock in the morning.
Last to leave.
Last to leave. I don't feel like leaving after pack up. Sometimes I feel like, wow, let's stay.
So important not to be ruffled easily.
Yeah, yes, yes.
Like challenging also because when I did Deepa Mehta's Midnight Children and Water, we were in Sri Lanka shooting. The entire costume was gone and been made in India and we went there. Suddenly when new scenes comes and there is, there was a rain which I can never ever forget in my life, where we were shooting the last sequence where Gandhiji comes in water and all. It poured like mad. Deepa had 104 temperature that day and the station was only available for one day. Suddenly there's a meeting that since the scene could be done, tomorrow we have got a day, can you do it now, Mike? There was a crowd of 2,000 in white costumes. And सब बेचारे इधर उधर भागे मिट्टी में गिरे हुए all. And morning they say we have to start at 5 o'clock in the morning. And this discussion is happening at 9 p.m. at night. And Deepa looks at me, I said, Deepa, not possible. I just said this. She says, you have to supposed to do a miracle. Then the challenge comes, we went and knocked all the doors of all the big hotels over there to please open up your वो करा के और set में 5:30 the entire 2,000 crowd was there. And Deepa still came on the set with 104 temperature.
So a lot of being able to deal with the panicky situation essentially.
We are hustlers.
Yeah, in pure sense, we are hustlers. I had a situation once where we had made a set and it was next to a river and the river had shifted the course, which none of us saw. We had checked all the weather reports, everything. Little bit of rain and the set was gone. It was completely washed out. And we just said, take a deep breath, breathe out, we got to do this again. So all your effort can just be washed away, but then you redo it.
And so many unpredictable changes in terms of how films are made. And I ask you this specifically because a change in the cast member, a change in something in the script that's done in the last moment for a reason that only the filmmaker knows. These affect your work in exponential ways. Do you constantly, the filmmakers that you are in conversation with, do they ensure that you are kept up to date with each of these changes as they happen? Or are there a lot of cases where you wish you had learned about these changes well in advance? As far as the industry is concerned, how does that operate? We spoke about the recognition of your work, the importance given to it from the public, from people who see it. Is enough of that happening within those who make it?
No, but life is a challenge and so is cinema. So you have to take up the challenges that come there. And yes, if you have, like I say, if you have faith in yourself, you'll be able to deliver.
But I think we're built differently. But yeah, we do get ad hoc requirements. Suddenly, then in the middle of the night, 11 o'clock, we get a call. I need a prosthetic with a bullet wound coming out. Can you arrange it? So yes, we do cater to that. Sometimes when it's nearly impossible, that's when you put your foot down. That this is something is not, especially in my line of work where prosthetics, there's chemical curing, there is molds have to be made, and in the sense you need a bit of time. But yes, we do face these kind of situations.
While we're talking about not getting ruffled by last minute requirements, let's also talk about whether certain emotional spaces ruffle you, whether it's complicated. I can take the example of Gangu that you won a national award for. In the initial portions, she's made to look resplendent in the screen and all of that. But then there are very disturbing portions where you have to work with bruise marks on the face, these are difficult emotional spaces to be operating in as well. Do you just sign out emotionally and get that work done, or do you really get into the thick of things and let you feel things while you do that?
I think I have pretty much signed out for a very long time. I stopped feeling all these things. For me, because the creation of these appliances which go on the face, I see the creation happening in front of me. It's from clay, it is going to silicone, it is going to the actor's face. So for me, that emotions are out, but I do get a lot of calls, a lot of messages, especially for the Gangu bit where there was a big cut across the chest going all the way down to the torso. That was so brutal that we could not see that. And I think my brain has just become immune to reacting myself. But yes, people find it pretty brutal. In fact, this Bombay Meri Jaan, the story of Dara also, there's a lot of brutal scenes that happen. So it also depends on what the director also wants, where they want to show this kind of content where you go full on. And yeah. I think about that particular scene. What I liked was the impact was much later when she reveals the star and she wants to get the guy, and then you actually see it. And then that is when it really hits you. It's not actually shown at the moment the crime is actually happening. Yeah, much later. Then you know what she endured. So these are the kind of emotional spaces, like you. And then, I mean, of course, there's the design of it, but then the director also the way they reveal it and the spaces in which you reveal it. But that is the emotional impact. Like while doing it, it doesn't affect. But later on, if I'm watching the film, that's the time, because it's like everything is coming together: the acting, the costume, production design, the cinematography, the direction. So the whole idea of filmmaking is to get emotions out of people.
Maybe we can talk about something pleasant now.
Ah,
And Vaishnavi, your work in Sita Raman was widely appreciated.
yes,
And for how it looked, and there was this time traveling, sweeping romance that was
yes.
going on there. It seems like all three of you, or people in your line of work, do love period.
Oh yeah. I think it's the space where I know we're proud and loud. A lot of period films. But that's why, it's very difficult to hustle because everything has to be recreated from scratch. You can't just come and say, we need this, we need that. Everything has to be built and constructed. So that's a different kind of mindset altogether.
And I honestly feel I'm talking from my costume point of view, we are losing out to costume designers. We are getting more stylists.
Absolutely not.
So when we talk of period, people don't want to dig into to get into that. They just want everything ready. Market says, "इसका ये उठा लिया, इसका वो उठा लिया, ये कर दिया," और they do it. They do it. I feel we are, my father always used to say the foundation has to be strong so that आपने 3 मरला बिल्डिंग बनानी है, ग्लास की बनानी है, ब्रिक की बनानी है, मार्बल की बनानी है, but the foundation has to be strong. These days, I'm sorry to say that's why I'm taking my costume designing thing a little step away because that is missing. Everything can become fast food. Let me be very honest about it. So that thing has to change.
So you're saying you're not being given briefs that allow you to explore your line of work in the way that you want to.
The examples are there which are already, I'm sharing. The examples that come on which have already existed. कि किस तरह का होना चाहिए. From a blood film किस तरह का we want that kind of a look. Maybe Dolly as a designer, if she has thought about it, okay, fine, I understand tone of blood, but there has to be something added to the Indian element about it. It can't be. But that's how it is. But I don't mind it. It's my choice vis-a-vis one wants to go about it or one doesn't go about it. But what I am today, it's because cinema has given me that status in that movie.
The clothes people wear, the spaces they inhabit, how their faces look. You have the power to push things forward as well in small, noticeable ways that can cause a change. I do think that. How I mean this is, what's something that you feel very proud of, where you really push things forward, as opposed to, hey, beauty is this, um, prettiness is this, a good looking person is this, or this is what a person from the slums must wear. And these are all very sensitive spaces, right? And these can have an effect on the psyche of the viewer in a way that the story doesn't necessarily do. These reaffirm stereotypes. So I mean, that's pretty much what you were saying right now. You said, give me something new to do as opposed to just replicating what's already out there. Specifically, can you think of any examples where you're proud of that you broke a stereotype with respect to how something is communicated?
Yes, let me start. When Omkar, Karina, when you see that song, the love song between them, and she's there, I always imagined her to be as a butterfly, a swan flying, white, the costume that I gave. And I shared this with Vishalji about it. He says, Dolly, go ahead, whatever you think about it. And when Karina wore it, honestly, I would say as a designer, I said, there is an actor who's giving meaning to who's giving a dialogue to my costume. That is the moment I really appreciated. Secondly, I must say the dignified costume language that Farhan gave in Bhagavad Gita. Visibly, there are the shots, all the vests that he's wearing. I could feel that in all my costumes, I could feel the sweat, the smell that he was giving the character. So that makes you satisfied and happy about it.
I think even while I was talking about this, Preeti seemed quite excited about wanting to share something.
No, I tried, but it eventually didn't work out. It was for a film. I'm not going to give up the name. I'm sorry, but so there was a sequence in which this character is the protagonist. It's a figment of his imagination, and this girl, she comes in and she's walking around like a fairy, and she's talking to him. It's all in his imagination. So I had designed the full look, and I wanted a very dark, dusky, beautiful Indian woman to go and do that character, and she's just swaying around, and I wanted that, how the dark skin glows, and I'm a huge fan of that. So I wanted to, and I created the looks and everything. And when I did the meeting, but then the answer that I got was कि नहीं नहीं गोरी लड़की चाहिए ये नहीं काम करेगा concept. So that's very heartbreaking because as if when you talk about characters, when you talk about beauty standards, we are not creating beauty standards. We are creating characters which fit to the script. We are not telling, okay, a beautiful person needs to look like this or an evil person needs to look like that. We are just narrating a storyline. So that was something which I tried to do. That will be something very refreshing for the Indian audiences to go and see someone like them being shown in the best possible way in terms of looks and in terms of the character and the standard of beauty. But that didn't eventually happen. But these are things where in our own personal spaces we try to strive, we try to break that change. And wherever I feel maybe one day you do meet a director who wants to do that change, that'll be great.
I think it's time to. I'm told that this is all the time that we have for this conversation, and we have to open the conversation to the people who are watching it. And it feels like we've just got started on discussing a couple of deep things about the respective fields you operate in. Before we open the session to the audience, maybe finally you can tell us something about an exciting project that you're all part of right now that you're working
Beju Babra, Mr. Bansali's next, so very excited about that. And Pushpa 2 is in the making, yes. And thank you. Thank you.
For me, there is this film coming, Nurani Chehra with Nawazuddin. And I've done an Indo-Canadian film, Gallery, which will be there. Basically for the festival of the crowd over there. Then there are two other Bollywood films which I'm tight-lipped. I can't talk about it, but yes, good one. I just finished the English Foundation and on a plate. Sort of.
Okay, thank you so much. Now I think we can have questions from the audience.
Thank you guys.
We'll be sure to give several of you a chance to talk to these people, and we hope you will stick to asking questions and not so much sharing opinions if that's okay with you.
Good question, sir. Yeah, I'm Suresh Kumar from social media. My question is, I met a few of the costume designers and makeup persons. They told me it is very easy to a younger person to be made to look older. It's very difficult for a old person to look. So, what's the challenge you have, and what are the options you have to make a older person look younger? They told by some costume design.
It's more, I think, look-wise, it's the actor's body attitude, what
They are saying the best of costumes I've seen is the last temple. And it won the award too.
Preeti, I think this is right up your alley, if I'm not wrong. Is it difficult to make a young
No,
person?
I heard the question. I did. The CG, computer graphics, VFX, that is in play to make a older person look young. And of course, as ma'am said, the body language, how you carry yourself. There is a limitation. We are not doing plastic surgery. It is maximum doing makeup on the face. So how much we can pull the skin up, we'll do that. Rest, the computer is going to do the magic for the
For me,
actor to look young. Yeah.
for me as a designer, the textures speak a lot. What an old man would be wearing, what a younger would be, what the heavier texture would look on an older person and the same texture on a younger. So we work with lines and textures a lot. Yeah.
No, no, we'll be happy to give you a mic. If you'll
Hello.
just
Good evening, all of you. I would like to introduce the three of you.
sir, please take your seat. You will be allowed to ask the question next.
प्रीति जी से पूछना चाहता हूँ प्रीति का जो कैरेक्टर था उसमें अपने स्टार बनाने थे whether it is a realistic with the genuine character or it was created now you created
सर वो
तो डिफेक्टिव हो गए थे
वो खुद का डिजाइन सोचा था वो पार्ट ऑफ कैरेक्टर नहीं था अपने आप ही सोचा था कि उसको और कैसे फिरोशियस और कैसे एग्रेसिव पुट अक्रॉस कर सकते हैं
I'm the Dr. Vivek Vadikar. I am also actor. Dolly madam. गलत न समझना मैडम मगर ये कॉस्ट्यूम का जो अनुभव आता है वो करते 2-3 हफ्ते पहले आपका मेजरमेंट क्या है ये क्या है वो क्या है किसी की साइज क्या है और जब जाते हैं तो बोलते हैं आप लेके आए होते तो आपने जो लो बजट की बात बोली वो मेरे ध्यान में आ गई तो
आप मेरे साथ काम करिए, आपको ये मौका नहीं मिलेगा.
and third one is the Vaishnavi madam.
Sir, I think a lot of people do want to
Just
talk.
one thing. मेरी ऐसी ख्वाहिश है कि मैं जब भी आर्टिस्ट से काम करूँ किसी में तो वो भी मेरा मेकअप आपसे हो जाए क्या आप बोलते
I'll do the makeup. No worries.
ओके थैंक यू
Hello,
You change your profession now.
hello, Satyendra. Uh, if you have seen Peter Brook's Mahabharata, there are actors from 62 countries. They are different.